This week we had Andrew Hartman on, who makes the argument that
I listened to that. That was a good interview.
yeah. Well, thank you. I am, I think the argument seems a little bit muddled to me around the semantics of what the culture war is. And,
Right.
If you look at it very narrowly, as he does, which is from the social emancipation movements in the late 60s, those particular issue sets, if you just confine yourself to some narrow issue sets, and then also define the culture war as only something that is played out on a national level, then maybe the culture war is over and the left has won. But Digby has a great piece in Salon this week that I think sort of refutes that. And part of it just seems to be just sort of a semantic, but that's a pretty narrow playing field, because Digby makes the point that we have a bunch of other culturally sort of, contentious points. And,
Right.
And then I think there are others who would argue, like, this is not going to end. There's always going to be a culture war in this country. It's a question at various times as to whether or not it's leveraged fully by the Republican Party.
Yeah, I mean, you can take aspects of both of those and say they're each somewhat right, but I think Digby's analysis is more correct to me because of what you just said. I mean, if we were an actual democracy and not a republic, if we just all, voted by ballot initiative constantly, went and registered our vote for everything, and everything, it didn't matter what state you lived in, it was just a majority vote, and everybody was registered, let's say, and had to vote, on almost everything. Of all the cultural issues that were very unpopular and often damaging for progressives to take, whether it was gay rights, whether it was abortion rights.
So I'm going to reserve the balance of my time to
immigration. I mean, really, the issues of race, sex, religion, around those, really, rural versus urban identity, I guess I would call it. That overall, there's no doubt, the growing segments of the population, the growing parts of the country economically, the thriving parts, the people who are doing best, so to speak. I mean, not always. You get CEOs and whatever, but I'm thinking of the educated class. So in most ways. And look, overall, you can see it in polling on issues from gay marriage to pot to other things. But the problem is that that's not the way this country works. Is we were founded, and from the devil's bargain we made when we initially came together, and that Constitution was written, gave way too much power to rural areas and smaller states. And in the end, we're still paying the price for all that, and we have for our history. I mean, if in 20 or so states, even if the combined population of those 20 states are like 3 people and a couple goats, if you can pass all sorts of retrograde laws. And do so, and those who resent our modernity in general, and this happens again. This is, as Digby said, this is not something new. This is the kind of thing, every 20, 30 years, and really in between, as you move forward. I mean, there was a time where a culture war was over. Should we have slavery or not? I mean, this is a constant thing. I mean, people always talk about it as the '60s, and that's really just because post-World War II, when the economy was booming and we defeated fascism, there was a period of time where America was united, and largely united because the two parties were similar, and anybody who didn't believe in what the two parties said was shut out of the conversation. It doesn't mean there weren't alternatives. Well, that changed, of course, in the '60s when the parties separated on some issues and regions separated on some issues, and there was a big blow-up. But that doesn't mean there weren't always these kinds of issues throughout American history and frankly most other countries. So no, this will never end. And certainly in the manner in which this country is governed, where so much power is given to states, is given to localities, where we've allowed money to run rampant, and other things like that allow a very loud and determined and sometimes wealthier minority to win. These kinds of things enable that louder, wealthier, some minority or angrier, either wealthier or angrier or both in some cases. And so that's why I think Digby has it exactly right. Not exactly right, but I would go more with
Yeah, I mean, I think like at the end of the day, this is the fact that this is being waged also in the States is more of a sort of a strategic retreat or a tactical retreat rather than a strategic one. I mean, at the end of the day, they still have
That's
the same
because we have
goal.
a Democratic president right now.
Exactly, and I would also add that she makes the point that now guns have become sort of a cultural battlefield, and
I can speak all day about that.
Right,
it is.
right.
And I mean, she pointed out on abortion too that what you've got is two different kinds of states headed in completely different directions.
Right.
Right. You've got states like New York and California liberalizing abortion law. As you have states like New York and California who are also passing tougher gun laws, mostly coastal states with a few exceptions in the middle. And then you have southern and certain sort of plains and mountain west states that are headed in a very different direction. And for the time being, and I think this will flip back, I hope so, certainly living here, because of a calculated campaign on the right that caught many on our side to sleep, states like, more Midwestern states that tend to be somewhere in the middle, like Ohio, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, at least we won the governor back there, is to stop the worst of this stuff. And Michigan, we're taken over by the Republicans, and these states are not representative of what the people think right now. They're doing the same things here, or at least trying, and sometimes succeeding as they are in southern states. But don't be wrong, even on the federal level, look, I mean, they're trying to pass the 20-week abortion ban after 20 weeks, and they're trying to do that at the federal level. Why? Because they think they may be able to override Obama's veto on that. I mean, if they think they have a chance, and even sometimes when they don't, Ted Cruz is screaming and yelling about a constitutional amendment banning gay marriage, or judges not being ever able to overturn the will of the people, or these kinds of things. I mean, they're still on a federal level talking about this stuff, and in cases where they think they can pass legislation, they're doing it. It's just right now with a Democratic president and the numbers being what they are, they don't think they can do it in most cases. So they've taken it to the states, or they've taken it to ballot initiatives like they did with gay marriage bans in 2004. I mean, they'll take it wherever they can find power. They'll be there doing it. But that's the point here, is that as long as these guys can fight back against what they consider sort of modernity and all of its evils as far as they're concerned, they will do it. So, no, it will never end. And in 50 years from now, when we're a lot more progressive, I hope, in a lot of the things we're talking about, there'll be new fights, and we'll be fighting about other stuff.
Right.
I mean, we're not even close, if you want to talk about gay rights, we're not even close to transgender equality yet.
Right, indeed.
So
or just being able to...
gay rights, we'll be fighting about that.
Or just
prohibiting
people from being fired for being gay.
That's right.
Fired for being transgender. Right. I mean, there's plenty more fights, and then, of course, then we get to global warming, and then.
And if a new type of minority starts coming to this country for whatever reason, there'll be people that hate that minority as they hated the Irish and the Italians and the Jews, and then now Hispanics and anybody that's different from the people who are here. There will always be some group that those that claim to defend what is good about America and what has been their experience in their lifetime in their neighborhood should be what we should all follow. And that will never change. So